We're seeing something truly interesting in the Republican Party, which has long been dragged by Democrats as being straight white men, not diverse. They make fun of the Republicans for not being diverse. They show these images of Congress, and they're like, look at all the diversity on the Democrat side. I don't believe it's real diversity. It's skin deep, quite literally. They don't support black conservatives. They don't support gay conservatives, trans conservatives. They don't. But we're seeing the rise of prominent black conservatives and gay conservatives and all of these different identity groups. And you know what? I don't care about their identity. I'm not focused on their identity. I do think it's particularly interesting, however, that we are seeing people like Kimberly Klacik and Billy Prempe rising up and saying, here's what we believe, here's what we want to do, and coming out of these policy positions and gaining ground with viral videos and, I gotta admit, good ideas. It's something the left says isn't real, but the reality is the left just tries to force people who are supposed to be, marginalized. They try to force them to adhere to their dogma. Here's a story about Kimberly Klacik. I want to show you this, and I want to talk about what Dems are doing with mail-in voting, because it's going to disenfranchise minority voters. Biden believes black people can't think for themselves. African-American Republican candidate Kim Klacik slams Democrats at RNC after viral video blaming party for decay in Baltimore. They say a black Republican congressional candidate claimed the Democrats take the black vote for granted and that Joe Biden believes we can't think for ourselves at the Republican National Convention last night. Kim Klacik is running for office in Maryland's 7th Congressional District, a Democratic bulwark, which was represented by the late Elijah Cummings for 23 years. Joe Biden believes we can't think for ourselves, that the color of someone's skin dictates their political views, Klacik said in the segment broadcast at the RNC in Charlotte on Monday. We're not buying the lies anymore. You and your party ignored us for too long. The black vote was crucial to Biden's victory in the Democratic primaries, but several recent gaffes have been highlighted by conservatives who claim that neither Biden nor the party is truly concerned with the concerns of African Americans. I certainly think so. And you know why? I defer to Kimberly Klacik, to Kanye West, to Candace Owens, to Billy Prempe. These are black conservatives, and they tell me over and over again, the Democrats do, the leftists, that Black Lives Matter. And I say, of course they do. Everybody does. I understand what you're trying to say, though. You're concerned about police brutality and all that stuff. And then I'm presented with a choice. In many of these districts where Democrats run, the Democrats are white progressives. You tell me then, when you get a white progressive coming up to me and saying, hey, Tim, Black Lives Matter, will you support me? I say, yes, you're right. Black Lives Matter, 100%. And I will support you in your idea by voting for the actual black candidate. You see how this works? Kimberly Klacik, Billy Prempe, for instance, two black conservatives running as Republicans in Democratic areas. And you would tell me that I'm supposed to support your cause, but ignore the opinions of these individuals. This is why the identity game is so dumb, and I hate it. No, I don't care about the color of your skin. I don't care if you're a Democrat and you're Latino or you're black or Asian or whatever. I care about whether or not you want to support freedom, whether you have good ideas. But what do we get? It's people like Kim, like Candace Owens, like Kanye West, who get attacked because of their identity by the left. Why should it matter if Kanye West is a Republican? It doesn't matter to me because there are a bunch of Republicans. They make it about identity. They make it about the fact that these individuals happen to be of a certain race. I don't like it. I think it's stupid. You tell me that you were once a liberal, now you're a conservative. I say, wow, that's interesting. Tell me more. You tell me that you're a woman who's voting for Trump, and I'll be like, women vote for Trump. You tell me that you're black and you're conservative. I say, sometimes people are conservative. They say that if you don't see color, you're being racist. I hate that, especially considering my family and my family's history. I know most of you get it. Second generation mixed race. I don't want to hear it. I want to hang out with people for their ideas because I don't want to be a victim to those people on the left and their identitarianism. I don't want to be told what I can or can't do or have certain, restrictions placed upon me because of my race. And I don't think anybody does. And that's probably why you're now seeing prominent black conservatives rising up, challenging the narrative from the left. It's not about party. It's about freedom. Let's read a little bit more. Let's read more. In May, the former vice president told rapper on radio Charlemagne, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black. And in an interview in late July, Biden made a clumsy contrast between the Latino and African-American communities. Speaking of the National Association of Black Journalists and National Association of Hispanic Journalists, Biden said, unlike the African American community, with notable exceptions, the Latino community is an incredibly diverse community with incredibly different attitudes about different things. I'm just mind-numbingly racist. It's just absolutely amazing. He later clarified his statement, tweeting, "In no way did I mean to suggest the African American community is a monolith, not by identity, not on issues, not at all." Except that's literally what he said. It's like he's never actually met people of different races. Asian community is not a monolith. White people are not a monolith. Hispanics, our Latinos aren't. Black people certainly aren't. Have you ever met an actual black person and then make the assumption to them of where they're from? That's racist. It's remarkable to me because, I remember, growing up on the South Side, there are people who tried to say they weren't African American to me. I'd say, oh, I don't know. White, black, Asian, whatever. Asian means you could be Chinese. You could be Indian. You could quite literally be Russian and be from Asia. It's just, it doesn't mean anything. I remember one guy I used to work with. He was Haitian. He says, don't call me African American. I'm like, I get it. Joe Biden doesn't understand that because he's a racist. And I think there's many people on the left that have overtly embraced the ideology of racists. Like the Robin DiAngelo woman who says she's uncomfortable around minorities. Like, that's you're a racist. And she says, yeah, she is. Klacik, 38, continued her address on Monday night, saying, and yet the Democrats still assume that black people will vote for them, no matter how much they let us down and take us for granted. Nope, we're sick of it and not going to take it anymore. The days of blindly supporting the Democrats are coming to an end. And Donald Trump is reaching out to the black community. He's reaching out to them as Americans, saying, I'm going to help you. I'm going to do what I can for you. And they call Trump racist for it. I defer to Kimberly Klacik. You tell me Black Lives Matter. I'll tell you this. There are many prominent left-wing activists, Black Lives Matter activists, who are black. And I do listen to what they have to say 100%. And there are conservatives. I listen to what they have to say, too. But you know what I can't stand? I can't stand the narrative of the leftists. I don't care about their race. When they would insult someone like Kim Klacik or Billy Prempeh or Candace Owens or the Hodge twins or whatever, I don't care what your race is. Have your opinions, man. Let's have a conversation. But why does the left have to make it about your identity? They're the ones going around telling you can't succeed. And that's kind of what Kim is saying. They can't think for themselves. They're saying you will not succeed because of your race. Nah, get out of here with that. I don't care whether you've got some kind of disability, whether you're, Asian, Latino, like I said, religion. I don't care about any of that. I care about whether or not you will respect people's freedom, their rights, whether you will respect people's dignity, have good arguments, respect, nonviolence, things like this. Klacik, as many of you know, had a massively viral video. They say her campaign was given a boost last week when Donald Trump shared one of her advertisements titled Black Lives Don't Matter to Democrats. There's a viral tweet going around right now. And this is what I want to get to wrap this up. Zayed Jelani says, this chart is an interesting way to look at the unequal distribution of victimization from violence in NYC over the past few months. What do you see? I see a hockey stick. From March to April, it went down a little bit. From April to May, it went up. And from May to June, it skyrocketed. What skyrocketed? Black shooting victims in New York City. They defunded the police. And who is suffering the most from it? I think the Democrats will tell you whatever you want to hear. I do. And I think there's a serious problem of shooting victims in New York. I've been complaining about the crime escalating in New York. I've been complaining, or I should say I've been raising the issue about defunding the police in New York. Who's suffering the most from this? The black community is. White people have seen a small increase. Asians, a small increase. Hispanics have seen a fairly large increase. But for the most part, it's black New Yorkers who are suffering the most under this. And these activists in New York are begging for the police back. I think we might see a dramatic shift to Republicans. And I think it's people like Kimberly Klacik. But take a look at this story I highlighted. I believe I briefly highlighted this in one of my segments. As Democrats push mail-in voting, black and Latino voters are wary. New research shows why 2/3 of both groups prefer to vote in person and why Democrats aren't pushing everyone to vote by mail. The people who are more likely to be disenfranchised with mail-in voting are minorities and first-time voters, people who might be unfamiliar with the system, That's just what the research shows, whether it's true or not. What do we get from the Democrats? Well, they push for this, and then they claim voter ID is racist. I don't think they actually know or care. To be fair, I don't think it's necessarily about all of the Democrats being racist. I think many of them are they do oppose racism. I just think their party is fractured and they have no idea what's going on. I mean, you've got so many different elements of the party fighting each other. But ultimately, let me wrap up with this. The general idea I have, seeing all this is just, if a Democrat's going to come to me and tell me that Black Lives Matter, I agree, 100%, then why wouldn't I or anyone else vote for Kimberly Klacik or Billy Prempeh over their white progressive challengers? I don't know exactly who Kimberly is running against, but Billy, for instance, he's running against a white guy. So, yeah, I'm down. I'll vote for the people who believe in freedom and who actually are pushing back on the Democrats who have failed these cities. If anything, I think Black Lives Matter has created the best argument as to why you should vote Republican, because the Democrats have been in charge of many of these areas for a long time and they have not succeeded. And that's exactly what Kimberly Klacik was pointing out. But whether I was able to get the idea in properly, I'll leave it there. I got one more segment coming up in a few minutes. Stick around, and I will see you all shortly.